So it's not. So she'll probably be back here next week after that. Plus, she'll be back next week because it's the day we're going to have a day after the election special for the primaries to see who made it and who didn't. Right now, we have one of our hopefuls here, Mr. Mario Snowden, who's running for Cleveland City Council Ward 4. Pleasure to have you here, Mario.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
Definitely glad.
Thank you very much. You know, how this is your first political campaign running?
Yes.
How is it? Have you worked on campaigns before?
So I've tried to. It's been times, especially coming out of college, where I hit up a lot of different candidates trying to work on their campaigns. And a lot of times it was one of those things where it was like, if you don't have anything to offer, they don't, have a lot of positions for you. And I can remember one particular candidate that I had tried to work for, and I had created like this whole plan to get him like to go after a senior citizen vote. Like I made this incredible plan, and it was just like I would hit him up and be like no hit back. I would call, no answer, and that was disheartening. So I made sure that with my candidacy in this, I made sure that anybody that I knew that may have been interested in politics or anything like that, I let them know I'm willing to offer information that I get and pass it on. I believe information is like water; it's not meant to just be held; it's meant to be passed on.
Right, like flow through like a fluid, throw through of information because you can't. Everybody can't be greedy, and like if even a dam breaks, if the water is overflowed in a certain place, pretty much, and then, you can't have others be greedy, and then have others start die of dehydration from not lack of information. That's not cool at all. So speaking of information, what have you learned from running?
So first and foremost, I think that you learn about a depth to issues. So like about safety, but you don't know all the things that go into it. I know with me personally, before I started my campaign, I consulted with officers in different areas. I consulted with firefighters in different areas and learned how in some communities, the firefighter safety services, they make you do 5 years as an EMT first, and then you're able to move into firefighter. But that ensures that you have a consistent flow of emergency service responders. And I think that, that's something that, when we look at Cleveland having some of the issues with retention in our EMS, that's something that could be beneficial or could help out.
Mm-hmm. So, Chris, do you have anything to add to this conversation?
Well, actually, I want to go back to what he was talking about with basically the flow of information and people getting involved in campaigns. You were talking about people kind of cutting folks off if they felt that they didn't have anything to offer. In a way, your candidacy is combating that because it's not just that same old, this hand washes that one kind of game that a lot of folks, unfortunately, have done.
Yeah. One thing that I will say is that I think that there are a lot of good candidates, and a lot of times, just like we talk about education for our residents to know, what issues are on the ballot or what issues are available to them or what services are available to them. A lot of times we don't know how to get involved, or
right.
A lot of times too, people, especially for me, I think after my plain dealer endorsement came out, a lot of people were like, "Oh man, congratulations, man! Anything I can help out with, I want to do." But then I also think that people have a fear of going door to door because it evokes that same rejection idea. People don't want to talk to you. I think that people, have a fear of having to interact with people, and especially in the pandemic. So I think that being able to show people that there are different ways that you can interact and help out in a campaign. That's not just financial, because you can never count someone else's pocket. That's not just door to door, but maybe it's phone banking, maybe it's packing up candy. I've done a lot of children's events, and I've been excited to do that. And being able to have someone that would help me pack that candy up to get to those kids, would have been extremely helpful as well.
Right. So you worked on somebody's campaign. How did you hook up with Cassandra McDonald? How did that happen?
So one of my friends from college had told me, hey, like I know you were looking to work on campaigns. There's this lady on Facebook, and she's looking, she's running for office. Do you want to offer any help? And so, I had the opportunity to, just take a back seat and see things coming together in her race. And so I think that was like super dope.
That was dope. So you pretty much got the experience from there and saw everything that was going on, right?
Absolutely. And then I've always had an interest in politics. My grandfather, who passed away in February, who was
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. He was one of the reasons that I came back into the area a couple of years ago. But me and him, we used to sit and watch CNN and MSNBC and talk about politics or talk about this issue. He would tell me about the history of the Democratic Party and Republican Party, and then for me it was exciting because then I wanted to learn more about it. And so I feel like that's the kind of relationship we have to have with our kids and students as well now.
That's what's up. So, if you were not a school teacher or working with the Ambassadors for Children, or if you were not running for this seat, what else would you be doing? What hobbies? Now everybody's talking about the pedigree and I can do this, I can do that. So, what would be something that would interest the voters' human touch?
So since college, I've had a lot of different career paths or jobs. I came out of college working for Nationwide in member care. Then I worked for First Energy as a contractor. Then I ended up working with Allstate as a licensed agent. Then I worked for Akron Police Department. Then I worked for Cleveland Metro Schools, and I'm 32 years old.
Right.
But if I wasn't doing what I do in education, I think that I would definitely be attempting to get a nonprofit off the ground working with after school services or programs. I think that still brings that passion, but it allows me to be able to do something meaningful for our kids.
Right. So let's get into some other things. As far as, first of all, I got to take a pause for the cause to say rest in peace to Michael K. Williamson, who played Omar on The Wire, who passed away at age 54. So rest in peace to you and to your family. It's, played one of the pivotal roles. Here come Omar with that shotgun. You run when you see Omar right about now. But you saw the verses between Bashir Jones and Justin Bibb, two mayoral candidates. How did you feel about, watching that on, YouTube with Pastor R.A. Vernon, doing the moderating somewhat?
So I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, the blue and white.
Right.
So I thought it was pretty dope to see Pastor Vernon, Bashir and Bibb, who are all members of Alpha Phi Alpha. So I thought that was dope for Greek culture and for our kids to be able to see Black leadership, being able to converse and put their issues out in a way that wasn't mudslinging. So first of all, I had to say that. But I think that the format alone was like dope because you got to see full policy and ideas laid out versus in a forum or a debate. You have, you're confined by time, so you don't really get a chance to see the full thought laid out. Because I feel like a lot of times people go for the sound bites, and when those sound bites, they may get that, 30 seconds, 1 minute in, but when you got to explain it out, and like, oh, well, to follow up on that, what are you going to do exactly for it? Which the verses allow for Pastor Vernon, who was the moderator, to do. I thought that was absolutely amazing, brilliant, something that will be able to be used for years and years to come.
I thought about doing that, but the thing about it is just like nobody likes me that much. But the one thing, speaking in sound bites, the one word that came out from that is receipts. People talk about receipts. What do you think about the word receipts? You have not been in politics before. You have worked on a campaign, but you have not been in politics before to implement these things. It's say you can talk about it, but what have you done? How has your skills that you have from being at Nationwide, Akron Police Department, working with the children, transfer over to policy making in Ward 4 if you are elected?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I have to say this. Sometimes politics can be a funny game. Sometimes politics can be a place where people play keep out using things like receipts. We have to make sure that we are bringing in new ideas, that we are bringing in new blood into politics because it allows for us to put new ideas that are future facing. You know, you can have somebody who comes from the corporate sector, you know, like Mr. Bibb, and they bring forth certain ideas. And then you have people who come from an activist background, like Bashir, who bring forth other ideas that are, you know, people facing. And so you need that. And if, you know, Dennis Kucinich was able to talk about receipts, or, you know, Zach Reed was able to talk about receipts, it would keep out a lot of them. So we can't always talk about receipts versus talking about, you know, well laid out plans, well laid out steps to get to certain achievements and certain goals. So as far as myself and my receipts and what I'm able to bring to the table, one, I've worked with the community for wraparound services with my school. So I've been able to work with parents. I've been able to work with community partners. I've been able to bring community partners into our school. And outside of that, working, you know, whether it's with my fraternity, whether it's with some of the things I've done in the community, with, you know, I work with, you know, the March of Dimes. I've done 2 sessions with the Black Male Summit at the University of Akron.
Right.
But being able to take an idea or take an event and being able to format it, being able to lay it out, being able to see, okay, this is the goal of, this is the purpose. From there, how do we, you know, market this? Being able to have those skills and just putting an event together allows me to be able to do some of the community engagement pieces that Ward 4 desperately needs. Being able to work with different people, you know, whether it's at Akron Police Department or whether it's been with the district, whether it's been with the parents of our students, you know, who come from different backgrounds and different education levels and everything like that. Being able to work with them and find things that are able to help them out, I feel like is the same thing that you would do bringing services to residents in Ward 4. And so those are the things that I think are my receipts.
Right. Okay. All right. So it's always, you know, new leadership is always important, but developing a new leadership is always important. Why do you, like, the thing about it is, why do you believe, and that's why you believe in term limits so much?
So I believe in term limits in part because of that, but I also believe that term limits force us to not be stagnant. If we know that we've been able to get a hold of this piece and, we've done, this good thing or whatever, sometimes it's like, well, I've done that. I can rest myself. I don't have to, challenge myself to do anything more. And I think that creates, this thing where we're stagnating in the Black community. We're stagnating what we offer our people. Maybe that's why we haven't had, all of the Wi-Fi services that we desperately need, or the trade schools we desperately need, because there's not an incentive to work harder for it. And I think just the thought that people can challenge you, or that, people can come up with a substantial, campaign against you, it forces you to be a little bit more hungry. It forces you to not just sit there and, just relax or sit back and be like, well, I've done enough for my community. It's time for me to get payback.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's one of the most detrimental things that, has been a problem with politics, in the history of Black people.
Complacency.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So pretty much not gearing up for the great politician John Lewis talking about making good trouble. What do you feel about making good trouble? Especially, not only did we have the pandemic, we also had a uprising that our ancestors came back and pretty much tore this nation down. How do you keep, African American people in your ward from getting murdered by police officers? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with some of the racial injustices that go along, especially being Ward 4 being an African American neighborhood, and always they talk about it being a high crime neighborhood, so to speak, which I don't think that's the case. More opportunity, less crime. How do you combat that stigma?
So first and foremost, shout out to late great John Lewis, who was a member of Phi Beta Sigma.
Okay, you're just going to throw that out there.
But on a more serious note, when we talk about accountability with police, we talk about that professionalism. We talk about what you get when you get stopped. It's not a vengeful or personal assault upon you. Like when you get stopped by a state trooper, it's a level of professionalism that you're going to get. That encounter with a body cam is going to ensure some level of comfort that all right, well, whatever happens here, it's going to be recorded. People are going to be able to see it. So I believe that we must absolutely make sure that the public has access to body cam footage when necessary. And again, as I said before, when we talk about safety, making sure that we have enough incentive in our police force to bring in those veteran officers. But I also believe that we should have a blue light system around our RTA stops. I believe that we should have more cameras around our intersections and streets. That way, you have that secondary line of defense. So when you get stopped, you're not just relying on a body cam or footage from a police car, but you also have cameras that are in the city, and it also helps with investigations when necessary. But as far as you talked about opportunity for our youth and or opportunity for our adults and the people that they call troublemakers and crime issues, I think that making sure that you have that culture, a culture change that supports job and talent development. So making sure, again, that we have those resources geared towards job training and mental health services, but also the same way that you have a culture around Alcoholics Anonymous, right? You have people that are supporting you. You have, someone who's your buddy or your partner or whatever that's helping you through that process. We have to have the same kind of process and incentivize securing a job, maintaining that job, and then offering financial assistance and financial literacy to our residents to make sure they know how to sustain, they know how to budget, because that allows them to be able to do greater things with the money that they get. And I feel like those are some of the things that we just don't have widespread. If you know where to find it, you'll be able to seek it, but it's not for everyday residents.
Right. So something's on your biscuit, Miss Marissa. What is it?
Oh, I was listening to what he was saying, and I was thinking about what you mentioned before about partnering with HBCUs as far as kind of changing the police department and also the policing in Ward 4. And I was wondering, would that specifically involve connecting with Wilberforce and Central State since they are in our state?
Yeah, absolutely. One, I think that we have to make sure that we do everything we can to have a feed from our Cleveland schools into our HBCUs because there's a culture in that. But also, too, we have to understand that one, college is not going to be for everyone, but also two, HBCUs are not going to be for everyone. Some of our kids benefit from being able to be socialized or have that socialization experience with people of different cultures.
Right.
And so, for some of our kids, it's a safety net, it's a comfort being around, African Americans and Black people. For other students, it would do them better because they'll know how to operate in those corporate, rooms by being able to interact with, people of different cultures and different backgrounds. So I think that with the HBCU program is making sure that we're able to attract some of our graduates and everything like that back to Cleveland. But also, we should be looking at Lincoln. We should be looking at Grambling, Howard, all these different places because sometimes, people graduate from college and they don't stay in that major that they studied or anything like that. So this provides a job as well as it provides citizens and a tax base for Cleveland.
Oh, so looking to bring those people to Cleveland, the talented African American people, so they can teach the other African American people, like each one teach one, things of that nature, correct?
Yeah, I mean, so just because someone goes to college doesn't necessarily mean that they're educated, but I fully support our trade schools, making sure that we have African Americans who are skilled in carpentry and being able to do HVAC and things like that, because that provides this base of necessary workers and laborers and business owners in different fields, and make sure that we have a broad array of different things that we're good at and experiences.
So what businesses would you talk about bringing businesses in, which is small business and big businesses and, minority owned. What company businesses would you drive out of Ward 4? Because some of you talk about there's too many liquor stores or too many things where trouble awaits. What business would you drive out of Ward 4 if you were elected?
So I think that what we have to stay focused on is what businesses invest back into the community. You have a business that takes money out of the community and doesn't care about the community, doesn't keep up their area around their store or whatever. And those are businesses that we have to push down on. because we know with the broken windows theory, if this business shows you that they don't care about, your community enough to clean their property, they don't care about the residents of that community. So those are those are businesses that we absolutely have to push down on and try to bring in more positive and contributing businesses into the ward, whether it is a store, convenience store, or so on and so forth.
Okay. So before we take our last break, what inspirational words do you have for anybody that's running like you're running for this position?
So first and foremost, I have to say, no matter what it is that you do, you have to bring something to the table. So make sure that you do your research. Make sure that you understand yourself and your talents and what you're good at, because those are the things that will help you to shine. But also, too, don't be afraid to go after it. Don't be afraid to, take on that incumbent who may have been in office for years and years and years, because you may have something to offer. Your candidacy alone may help to bring something positive that impacts the community, that impacts residents. And at the end of the day, that's the goal. It shouldn't be, a selfish or egotistical driven candidacy. It should be something that is serving the people. When you get elected, you're a servant of the people.
Anything you had to add, Lady T? And thank you for my birthday gift, by the way.
Most definitely. I got to look out for you, bro.
All right. So,
but no, I mean, I agree on what the council candidate is saying. And, I mean, we must come together and always promote having one voice, So, I mean, it starts with, the inside to work on the system outside.
right. And Obama had to start somewhere, right?
Right.
So, exactly. Thank you, Human T-Rex, for bringing that to light. So, Mario, I'd like to thank you very much. And give your social media handles again before we take our last break on this show.
Most of it, I want to first and foremost thank you all for the opportunity to come and tell some of my views and share it with your listeners. Again, you can find me on Facebook at Mario Snowden. You can find my website where you can comment as well as donate at ward4snowden.com. And my Instagram and Twitter handle is Mr. Mario Snowden.
Right. Instagram and Mr. Mario Snowden. You got to put respect on this brother's name. So you can, if you want to hang around, you can. We're about to, take our last break here. As far as that, I have nothing else for you. So the thing about it is that Ward 4 residents like myself, make sure you vote. Damn, just make sure you vote for real. I'm just being honest. Just vote. All right. We going out with Levert. Baby, hold on to me. We'll be right back.
My dear brother, I must return back to the Wicked West. Well, actually, I got to go see my sister before I go back.